It tests how wealthy you are, how good a school you've gone to. It tests how many books you may have in your family, whether your parents went to college themselves. So it again tests the student's economic status and cultural status much more than it does whether a student is going to be doing well or not in school.
The purpose of the S.A.T., why it got constructed, was to predict college grades. So what happens is that kids of color, black kids, Hispanic kids, are very often left out. They're going to be predicted to not do well, when in fact they could do well.
But certainly, if you come from a background where your parents are highly educated, you have tons of money in order to not just have great schooling, but also take classes, you're going to do better than someone who doesn't have all of that. So I think it's just as unfair as life is.
Fair? Well, I mean, that would depend on what you think it's measuring. So, I mean, as this, as a completely unbiased measure of intellectual ability or readiness for college, no, it's not.
And I'm not sure how I determine what fair is in regard to an S.A.T. test. If you do well, it's very fair. And if you don't do very well, sometimes you might perceive that it's an unfair measure of your success, either past or present.
You know, it's supposed to be designed to measure a student's knowledge or a student's ability to process the knowledge and do well, you know, in a college setting. But I don't know that, you know, anything can be considered standardized.
No, I do not think the SAT is fair. I don't think that putting, especially the writing section, being somebody, I mean, I'm an English major, so I take particular offense to the essay, where they give you 10 or so minutes and they say, here, write a complete essay, and that's supposed to assess your writing ability. I don't think so at all. I think it's absurd.
In that it tests everybody the same way, yes. I just think it's a poor test, but it's fair. It treats everybody the same, yeah.
The idea that a standardized test should be kind of an indication of how smart or how not smart you are or something isn't really fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I just don't necessarily think that it displays people's abilities, but I don't think it's prejudice against anybody.
I think it's one tool in a series of diagnostic tools. I think that the S.A.T. test can be a predictor, but it has to be used in conjunction with a level of achievement.
It tests if you're good at taking standardized tests. And so I mean, I think it does measure, it does measure some intellectual ability and intellectual training and background, but that's only, you know, a small part of what success in education is determined on. I
don't think they in any way evaluate how clearly you can handle college. The style of examination done in SAT is completely different than any college has taken so far.
A lot of what you do in college, or at least what I've done in this college, is kind of straying away from standardized testing, and like a lot of it is more, you know, analytical thinking and reading and writing more so than answering a multiple choice question about the passage you did.
We are S.A.T. optional. We have been actually since 1992, and we feel that that is not a good representation of a student's ability. As a student, we feel that the amount of work that they do and the kinds of courses they take in high school, their grades, those things are really what make the difference. And those are the best predictors of a student's success here at Wheaton.
Just about, you know, half the students I've known here at Wheaton, since we don't require the SAT, that for those who took the SAT but they didn't submit it, talk about test anxiety and, you know, other issues that may have gotten in the way, who are doing great, you know, in college. Have gone on to graduate school and have continued to do great. And, you know, not just for masters and PhDs, but law degrees and MDs and the like. So these are students who might have, in another situation, not been allowed into the school.
It doesn't account for the fact that people learn in different ways. It doesn't account for the fact of cultural and racial differences, even gender differences. It doesn't account for the fact that increasingly that we have a large number of international students who come to our schools. I think it measures kind of a perceived middle American society, and it also doesn't address a degree of readiness for college which can be different for some people.
It's interesting that even when income levels and education levels of the parents are the same, that you still have these disparities in SAT scores.
Exactly. No matter what the College Board says, the facts are the facts. Facts are that still students of color perform lower, African Americans and Latinos perform lower on the SAT. So one of the things that needs to happen to be able to increase the probability that the child will go into college, regardless of their socioeconomic background as well as their ethnic background, is to make the SAT less important to the application process.